A new version of Microsoft Windows has just dropped. Windows 11 25H2 is now available to download from Microsoft's website. So I'm going to take another look at Rufus and see if it's still possible to bypass Microsoft's strict hardware requirements for installing the very latest version of Windows 11. It's more relevant than ever this year as Windows 10 becomes end of life on October 14th, 2025. That means anyone running Windows 10 after that date will no longer receive security updates, which means your PC or laptop will be vulnerable to malware and other cyber attacks. Although Microsoft is allowing users to enroll in the Extended Security Updates program, which will give Windows 10 users one extra year of updates. To enroll, you either need to make a one-off payment to Microsoft or stay signed into Windows with an online Microsoft account and synchronize your settings to OneDrive using the Windows Backup application. When Windows 11 was first released, Microsoft set quite strict hardware requirements. Among those requirements are an 8th gen or later Intel CPU or AMD equivalent, a TPM version 2 chip, and secure boot. That meant a lot of existing Windows 10 users were not able to upgrade to Windows 11. But in my opinion, if your PC falls just below Microsoft's hardware requirements, but you can run Windows 10 pretty well, then it should be good enough to run Windows 11. For example, in this demo, I'm using a HP desktop with a 6th gen Intel CPU, which won't officially allow me to install Windows 11. One of the best ways to get around the hardware requirements is to use a free app called Rufus. Rufus is a free utility that takes an ISO file and creates bootable media on a USB flash drive, which you can then use to do a clean install or an in-place upgrade. A bonus feature of Rufus is that it allows you to modify a Windows 11 ISO file so that the hardware check is bypassed, which allows you to install Windows 11 on unsupported hardware, whereas normally the installation would be blocked on any hardware that doesn't meet Microsoft's minimum requirements. Other cool features of Rufus include the ability to skip the out-of-box experience so that the install can be mostly unattended, and you can also specify a local user account. This is really useful now as Microsoft are reportedly blocking all the other workarounds for creating a local account. Head over to the Windows 11 download page and scroll down to the ISO download. Click on Select Download, choose Windows 11, then click on Confirm. You then need to choose your product language. If you're going to be doing an in-place upgrade, then ensure you choose the same language as what's currently being used on the PC that you want to upgrade. Otherwise, you won't get the option of keeping your existing files and apps. Click on Confirm, then click on the Download button to download the ISO file to your Downloads folder. Once that's downloaded, head over to the Rufus site and scroll down to the Download section. You have 4 options to choose from. Click on the one that best suits the PC that you're on. And there isn't really any difference between the standard and portable versions, as even the standard version doesn't require installation, it just opens. I'll say yes to check for updates and then we're in the utility. First, insert a USB flash drive with a capacity of at least 8 GB. Then click on Select and choose the 25H2 ISO file that you downloaded earlier. Next, we need to choose the partition scheme. This is basically asking if you want to create the boot media for a PC that uses a UEFI BIOS or a legacy BIOS that older computers use. If you're not sure which type you're currently using, you can confirm it by going to a run prompt and type in msinfo32. Look at the value for BIOS mode, it will either say legacy or UEFI. So as my PC is using a legacy BIOS, I'll click on the partition scheme and choose MBR. If your PC is using a UEFI BIOS, then just leave it on GPT. Then click on Start, and this is where we make our modifications. You can remove the requirement for 4 GB of RAM, secure boot, and TPM. You can also remove the requirement for an online Microsoft account, which means you'll be able to use a local account instead. You can specify a name for a local account, which will get automatically created during the Windows 11 installation. If you choose to leave this box blank, you'll get prompted to enter a local account name during the Windows setup. You can choose to automatically set the region options to the same as the PC that you're currently on. Again, selecting this means that the setup won't stop and prompt you to choose a region, it will set it automatically. You can disable data collection and skip the numerous privacy questions you would normally be prompted to answer. You can also choose to disable BitLocker, which is Microsoft's disk encryption software. Where PCs meet a certain criteria and you use an online Microsoft account, BitLocker is automatically enabled. If you don't want to enable BitLocker automatically, check this box to ensure BitLocker remains disabled. And finally, there's an option that relates to using an updated bootloader. I'm going to leave this blank for now, but I'll leave a link to the Rufus FAQ in the video description where you can learn more about updating to a more secure bootloader. Once you've chosen your modifications, click on OK. You'll get a warning telling you that all the existing data on the USB flash drive will be wiped. So ensure you've backed up any files from that USB disk if you need to keep them, as continuing here will wipe the USB disk and replace the contents with the Windows 11 installation files. Once you're happy, click on OK and Rufus will then create your installation media. This can take a while, so sit back and relax and let Rufus do its thing. And once it's finished, you're then ready to install Windows 11, where you have the option of doing an in-place upgrade, which will install Windows 11 25H2 over the top of your existing installation of Windows, and it will keep your existing files and apps intact, or you can do a clean install. A clean install is where you wipe the disk clean and install a fresh copy of Windows 11, but no files or apps are kept from your old operating system. Generally, I prefer to back up my data and do a clean install, but a lot of users will want to do an in-place upgrade, so let's go and start the upgrade process by clicking on the Setup program. Click on Next. The setup will then check for any updates. Interestingly, even though we're installing using media that's been modified by Rufus, the setup program brings up a disclaimer basically saying installing on unsupported hardware is not recommended and may result in compatibility issues, etc, etc. But you can then click on Accept and the in-place upgrade will continue. We're then ready to install, and you should see that you're installing Windows 11 and have the option to keep personal files and apps. Once you're happy to continue, click on Install and the upgrade will start. The rest of the installation is unattended and your PC will restart several times. The upgrade process can take some time depending on your hardware, so I'll speed things up for the purposes of the video. After a little while, you should end up at the Windows 11 desktop, although it's still using my old Windows 10 wallpaper, which now looks a bit odd on Windows 11. If you go to a run prompt, you can type winver to confirm the version of Windows currently installed. It should now say 25H2. As you can see, all my apps and files from my Windows 10 desktop are still here. Let's take a look at the activation status to see if installing on unsupported hardware has any effect on it being activated. If your previous installation of Windows was activated, then as long as you're using the same edition of Windows, then it should remain activated. For example, if you had Windows 10 Pro which was activated and then you installed Windows 11 Pro, your Windows installation will be activated automatically. But if you previously had Windows 10 Home Edition and then you installed Windows 11 Pro, then as this is a different edition, you would need to reactivate with a new product key. Okay, that's an in-place upgrade completed. Let's have a quick look at a clean install. I'll restart the computer and boot the machine from the USB flash drive. You normally need to press a certain key during the boot up to invoke the boot menu options. On this HP desktop, I need to press the F9 key during startup to get into the boot menu. But here are some other common keys for other manufacturers. I'll choose my legacy USB flash drive and the PC will then boot directly into the Windows 11 setup program. I'll confirm the language and time settings are correct and then click Next, and confirm the keyboard settings and click Next. I'll tick the box to confirm that I agree that everything will be deleted and click Next. We then need to accept the license terms and then choose where to install Windows 11. Here we can see disk 0, which is the only SSD inside this PC, and disk 1 is the USB disk containing the Windows 11 installation files. As I just did an in-place upgrade to Windows 11, I can still see the existing Windows partitions on the disk. So before we do a clean install, we first need to delete all the partitions on disk 0. So I'll highlight each partition on disk 0 starting from the top and then click on Delete Partition. I'll repeat that step for the other two partitions, so we should end up with a single entry for disk 0 with unallocated space. Bear in mind your system may look different if you have more than one SSD installed, so take care when deleting partitions to ensure you're deleting the correct ones. Once you've deleted any old partitions, click on the unallocated disk to select it, then click on Next. We'll get a summary screen saying that Windows 11 will be installed and no files or apps will be kept, which we know because we're choosing to do a clean install. Click on Install to start the installation. Just like the in-place upgrade we did earlier, the rest of the install is unattended. The PC will restart a few times during the installation and you will eventually end up at the Windows 11 desktop. So that's a clean install complete. If you're wondering if Microsoft blocks Windows updates on devices that don't meet the minimum requirements, let's take a look. Here's two virtual machines freshly installed with 25H2. The one on the left meets the minimum requirements for Windows 11, the one on the right does not. Let's run Windows updates on both and compare the two. We can see that they both receive exactly the same updates, which shows that Microsoft are not blocking any Windows updates on unsupported hardware. Okay, that just about wraps up this video about whether you can still use Rufus to install Windows 11 on unsupported hardware. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.